All right, what's up, everybody? We are live PGA DFS picks for the Players Championship. Lineup advice. We're doing a live Q&A here. Strategies, tips, everything you need for FanDuel, DraftKings, and Yahoo. Welcome. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy. Very special guest. We have our PGA DFS writer, and he's still in witness protection, so we can't show his face. But it's Niromada. Niro, what's up, buddy?
What's up, Ryan? Yes, I am still somehow gainfully employed in the same job that I had, so I'm continuing to stay in the shadows.
So it just adds to the intrigue. For those of you who don't know,
Yep.
Niromada writes our PGA Daily Plug at occupyfantasy.com. We'll bring it up here on screen in a bit. We're going to be here for about 30 minutes. If you guys have questions, go ahead and throw them in the live chat. We'll happily answer them as the show goes along. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel to get notified whenever we go live, upload any new videos. Give us a thumbs up. If you like PGA content and would like to see more of it, the best way, definitely join our Discord server. Click the join button below this video. That way you get access to all of us, Occupy Fantasy community, and you get to bug Nero on the nights before slates, and he'll happily answer your questions. So, Nero, I don't know if you can see the screen here, but I actually have my fourth place finish from last week, which was a big week for me. And I just want to say a lot of people ask about the PGA process, and couldn't have done it without you. And I honestly only use the stuff we have at Occupy and what you put in the plug and what we have in the model and the line moves. So I'll use this time to say thanks and good work so far.
Hey, you're welcome. Ken has also had a great last couple months. I think doing the same exact thing, just using the info that's in the plug and the model to crush the smaller field high dollar contests on FanDuel. So I'm glad that people have been doing good with the info. I haven't myself, but that's the way DFS goes. So I'm glad that people are having success.
That just means it's your turn next. You're due for one. You had your 100K last year, so you're due for another one here shortly.
Yeah, next week at the match play. So
there we
we'll
go.
run that back.
Sounds good. All right, so let's start because the weather is the primary factor that we have to consider for our lineups for this entire event. And let me pull up, let me see here, let me pull up the Occupy Daily Plug where, Nero, you wrote an entire weather strategy section. I'm going to pull it up here. And Nero, you were telling me before the stream started, you were screenshotting and pausing live TV weather in Jacksonville to try to get a sense of what's going to happen here. But give me the rundown of what we know and how we can use what information we do have to build the best lineups we can.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll start by giving a quick background on golf tournaments for those of you who don't follow golf very closely or just play DFS but don't really understand the dynamic of how a golf tournament operates, and obviously that's totally fine. But
I'm in that group, by the way. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. The main part for us that we care about is for most tournaments, cut the field in half. Half the field tees off on Thursday morning, and the other half tees off Thursday afternoon. Then they flip the order, and the half that teed off on Thursday afternoon tees off on Friday morning, and the group that teed off Thursday morning waits to play until Friday afternoon. You'll hear that called like the morning wave or the afternoon wave or the Thursday morning wave or whatever, but you just know that it's the opposite. So if you're playing a player and he's playing early on Thursday morning, you can know that he's going to play late on Friday afternoon. Tour does that as a way to try to even out the weather. Most wind mostly works in a way that it's lighter in the morning and heavier in the afternoon. So that way theoretically each half of the field would play in heavier wind. So that brings us to this week. That's how it works. Most weeks that's also how it's working this week. But this week the weather is playing an outsized role in how you approach DFS lineup. So you can see in the plug, I can't see the screen, Brian, but if you're read the plug, then you know that I kind of laid out like what the general forecast is, and that hasn't really changed. That is rain Thursday, rain Friday, decent winds. Saturday, little more rain early in the day, and brutal winds, like 20 mile an hour consistent winds gusting to 40, basically from the beginning of the day till the end. Then Sunday, we're going to be playing in like the 40s. Like the high in Ponte Vedra on Sunday is going to be like 52 degrees. So they are going to play in like the high 30s and the 40s with like a 15-mile-an-hour wind on Sunday. So what that really means is don't want to play golf on Saturday. Saturday is going to be the worst day because wind affects golf scores more than any other variable, way more than rain, water, like any of that kind of stuff. Like wind has the absolute most effect. Now, if you watch last week at Arnold Palmer Invitational, hello, you do see that water makes a difference, right? That course was very dried out, very baked out, very little water on it. The greens were super fast, all that kind of stuff. So that does matter, but nothing wreaks havoc with professional golfers like excess wind. And wind that's 20 miles an hour consistently gusting to 40 is really hard to play golf in. And it's really hard to do is be precise with golf shots. So I go out and play, that doesn't matter. But Will Zalatoris trying to hit a shot from 140 yards into a landing area that's only like 5 yards wide, and he gets caught with a 40-mile-an-hour gust right after he hits the ball, like that makes a huge difference. So for us, the real question is, if I don't want to play golf on Saturday, I want all my guys to make the cut. And the most fair thing would be everybody just plays the third round, the one round of golf on Saturday, and everyone is exposed to those conditions. Most unfair thing would be if there are enough weather delays from on Thursday and Friday that they have to stop play for a couple hours, wait, like that kind of thing. And the players who are supposed to play Friday afternoon don't get to play on Friday. The players who are supposed to play Friday morning do get to finish their rounds. That's going to be extremely unfair because all of those players that played Thursday afternoon, Friday morning are going to have a huge advantage because they will not have played one of their 2 rounds that everybody plays before the field gets cut in half after the first 36 holes. They won't have played that in that heavy wind, and that other group will. Excuse me. So strategically, that means for us do we want to stack that group that plays Friday morning and hope that there will be enough weather delays? The Friday afternoon group will have to play their second round on Saturday, and then they'll try to play the rest of the third round on Saturday, which will inevitably bleed over into Sunday, and then they'll try and finish the final round before sunset on Friday. So there's your general theoretical construct. You can really choose to do whatever you want. It's all about your risk tolerance. So first of all, it might not matter because what could happen is there's no delays or there's not enough delays that really forces people to complete their second round on Sunday. Could also be so many delays that everybody is only able to complete their first round in the first 2 days, and then everybody's playing their second round on Saturday. The tournament, in that case, finishes on Monday, and that does happen. And there's no advantage to be gained by stacking the waves because everybody plays on Saturday or nobody plays their second round on Saturday. So those 2 scenarios are both likely, could totally happen, and it could render all of your stacking like meaningless.
Well, I guess the question though is, right, like, so that's a great strategy, and assuming you like the players that are playing Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, assuming you're not just playing guys that you don't like, is there any downside to actually stacking that? Because it sounds like the worst case scenario is they're in the same boat as everyone else, but the upside is they may have a weather edge.
Correct. The only downside is if you like guys in the morning wave more and you don't play them to play some of the guys that you like less but still kind of like in the Thursday afternoon wave. Then that could be your downside. Otherwise, you're correct. There is no real downside. Okay, so last thing here on the weather specifics. I'm not a weatherman, but as Brian mentioned, I was watching the local Jacksonville newscast. Jacksonville is the closest big city to where they're playing in Ponte Vedra. And I was freeze framing the radar trying to figure out exactly when the rain was going to fall. And it was all thunderstorms. Like, it wasn't just like a steady east rain. It was all thunderstorms rolling across the screen as they played the continuous loop. So you should know that when there's a lightning strike within 30 30 miles. There's some, they draw a circle around the venue, and if there's it's just like the college football or the NFL rules. Like if there's a lightning strike within that radius, they have to wait 30 minutes until there's the last lightning strike in that radius before they will go out and resume play. They will play through rain as long as there's no electricity in the air. As soon as there's electricity in the air, they will start to cause delays and pull guys off of the course. The only other time they will delay it is if there starts to be standing water on the course. So as I was free streaming the radar, they were given the rain totals. They were expecting 0.85 inches of rain from midnight tonight until Thursday at 5 p.m. So if there's no electricity in the storms, by the way, there should be, but who knows whether or not that's going to be enough to delay it. That wouldn't be enough to delay the proceedings on Thursday. They would, if it was just a straight rain that was an inch of rain in a day, they would play through that no problem. They wouldn't even think about it. And then you get to Friday afternoon, they're still only expecting 1 total inch, so just an additional, tenth or 0.2 of an inch. But then Friday at 8 p.m., they're expecting to have had now 1.7 inches of rain. So Friday afternoon, they're, again, more storms rolling across just continuously, over the venue. And these are all like storms, if they divert a little bit right or a little bit north or south, then, you miss the event, they'll keep playing. But if one of them goes right over, then, boom, it's a delay because of the lightning. And then you got to wait until all the storms clear again. And then it was by midnight Friday, they're expecting 2.3 inches of rain. Okay. So again, like pretty heavy rain Friday night. And then 2 p.m., this is when the storm basically ends, Saturday afternoon, 3.4 inches of rain total. So number one, they're expecting 3.5 inches of rain between midnight tonight and 2 p.m. on Saturday. And they're expecting a full inch plus between midnight Saturday and basically noon on Saturday. You could stack and everything could work out, and then those guys go to play Saturday morning and they get rained out. Like, they could then wash out a lot of what's happening on Saturday, and then those guys don't, they only play like a little bit in the rain on Saturday. So I think bottom line is, like Brian said, there's no disadvantage to stacking the Thursday afternoon guys as long as you like the players that you're playing in that wave. The most likely thing that's going to happen is there will be a weather delay somewhere between Thursday and Friday. It looks like there's just too much storm activity for that not to happen. It's really a question of how many or how long the delays are. They could probably withstand like let's say maybe like a 2 or 3 hour total delay and still get most of the golf in for the first 2 rounds on Thursday and Friday. Anything more than that over those 2 days, and you're going to start to see guys have a big chunk of their second round pushed into Saturday. When, again, as we know, in the morning, it's going to be pouring rain and blowing 20 to 40, and you're just, that's just not going to be conducive to good scoring. Last thing I'll say is it's probably going to be not great scoring conditions. We saw really low fantasy point totals last week because the winner was -5. I'm going to guess because the course is going to play soft, like the winner will do better than that this week, but the wind is going to, make more bogeys, more double bogeys, like the scores are going to be higher. Fantasy points are not going to be as plentiful, which means the place bonus stuff is going to matter, even more this week than it normally would.
So,
okay, that was a lot of talking. I think I'll shut up now.
So we have to not only curse Shot Tracker for poor shots, we not only have to sweat the cut, but we'll also be sweating weather delays and if they can get the rounds in by Friday. So it'll be a fun week of golf from a sweating perspective. And on the screen here, I pulled up tee times, which you can get on the PGA Tour website. Just Google PGA Tour times. And if you need to break ties, it's probably the best way to figure out who's playing in the morning, who's playing in the afternoon. You can do that on this site. And again, we do have the weather outlined in the daily plug at occupyfantasy.com. So Nero, the viewers are here for some picks. So let's go really quickly in each salary range. I'm going to bring up the Occupy model. Ranks every golfer, FanDuel, and DraftKings. And if we sort by salary, Nero, this is what we're going to do rapid fire. I'll give you a salary range. You give me your favorite play in that range. How's that sound?
Good.
Okay, 10K plus on DraftKings.
Jon Rahm.
Jon Rahm, easy answer there. Okay, the 9K range. So that's Spieth all the way up to Cantlay.
That one, excuse me, that one is close, but I think I would go with Cam Smith, all things considered, with price factored in. Obviously, if I'm not going to factor in price, I'm probably going to pick about the most expensive guy in each range. So I'm going to try and factor in price. And
Sure.
I think that leaves me with Cam Smith at 9,400.
Fair enough. Okay, and then we have the 8K range, which goes from Zalatoris at the top all the way down to Shane Lowry, and I think I know your answer on this one.
Yeah, it's Shane Lowry, but man, it's close with Brooks Koepka at 8,600. But yeah, Shane gets the vote.
Both guys getting some love in the betting markets, which is always a sign that we're looking to implement into our player selections. All right, 7K range. This is where we start to get a little tricky, but still a lot of decent plays, especially in a major-esque type event, Nero. So from Sam Burns all the way down to, I have to keep scrolling because there's so many golfers in the 7K range, all the way down to Straka, Matt Jones, and those guys.
Yeah. I think I lost you for a second, so I don't know if you can still hear me. But if you can,
we're good.
Then my favorite 7K play would be Matt Fitzpatrick at 7,700. Now he's going to be one of probably the 3 highest owned plays on the slate. So if I would factor in some other factors, beyond, if I'm factoring in ownership a little bit, that kind of thing, my next one would probably be Taylor Gooch at 7,200.
Cool. And then if you are diving all the way down, if you're playing John Rahm, you probably have to do this. Golfers below 7K on DraftKings, your favorite play?
A good one. Absolute favorite in the city. I think my favorite I'll give it a tie between 2 players. So Thomas Peters at 6,300 and Lucas Herbert at 6,600. Again, not the 2 most likely to score the most fantasy points in the 6K range, but when I factor in ownership and all of those things, then those 2 would be my favorite.
All right, good enough. You heard it there. There's your lineup if you want to make one using one player from every salary tier. All right, let's get to some questions. We got some questions in Discord, and if you guys see, for some reason, my video keeps freezing up on the front end, so I'm going to keep trying to fix that issue. In the meantime, this basically turns into an audio-only podcast. So, Nero, we got some questions before we went live. Very in-depth questions from our Discord subscribers. And again, if you guys want to join, make sure you click the join button below this video to chat it up. We have 11 minutes left before we're out of here, so let's go quickly here. Lineup construction based on salaries this week, number of 10K golfers, number of 7K golfers. Do you have any preferred type of construction when it comes to salary on DraftKings?
I'm losing the audio a little bit. I think you're finished. If I do my lineup construction salary this week, I always prefer balanced lineups when the field is deep and it's a major or close to a major like this is. And when I say balanced, that means I'm going to play less of the most expensive guys, so less of the guys above 10K. In some cases, even like 96, 97, less of that. And I'm going to have a lot more lineups that start with guys in the 9Ks and don't go below, let's say, guys at 7,500 or something like that. So I'm trying to increase my quality of player while I, lose some of that top end upside at the upper salary ranges.
And that seems to be the primary preferred leveraged approach in contests events like this. So there you go. Whoever asked that in Discord, there's that question answered. 20 max strategy, player pool sizing. If you're playing 20 lineups, you're playing, let's say you're playing 10 to 20 lineups. In that type of strategy, Nero, are you more likely to play a core of, say, 3 to 4 golfers where you have 50% plus exposure and then rotating some golfers around them, or do you have a different approach?
That is my preferred approach. I will do that honestly, even if I'm building 50 or 100. I can't say I do that every week because I try to evaluate each week on its own merits. But that's what I do. I would say the bigger thing is if you're only playing 10 or 20 lineups, really try to stay away from having 30 guys in your player pool or something like that. Know that in a 20 max contest, it's still 50, 70, 80,000 entries. You need to create leverage. So don't spread yourself out too thin. Be willing to, take it on the chin and lose, and keep your player pool tight. Maybe 20 players at the most or something similar for like a 20 max.
Totally agree with that. We had a question earlier, ownership pivots from the most popular plays. So if I pull up the Occupy model here and I'm looking at projected ownership, Daniel Berger is projected to be the most popular, at least as of right now in our model. Nero, he's 8,800 on DraftKings. Anybody around him, I assume Koepka, you get a little bit of an ownership discount, but anybody else in that, let's say 85 to 9K range that you prefer as an ownership pivot off of Berger?
Yeah, Koepka would be fine. Louis Oosthuizen at sub 10% single digits would also be fine. Right. Spieth should be lower owned than Berger also. That's fine with me too. I think the thing is that golf is the most variant DFS sport there is. Maybe NASCAR is a little bit more variant, but they're basically the same. And everyone needs to understand that these weather conditions are just making like the most variant sport even more variant. Like Daniel Berger might get caught in the worst of the weather through no fault of his own, and he might be playing great, but he might then just totally crash and burn for factors like, outside of people's control before lock. And Jordan Spieth and Louis Oosthuizen and Brooks Koepka, they are every bit the golfer that Daniel Berger is. Their current form might not be quite as good as Berger's, but like the weather is a great equalizer in that scenario. So definitely do not be afraid to pivot away from well-owned plays in different price ranges.
Absolutely. And one of the other higher owned golfers is Fitzpatrick, who you mentioned earlier. Anybody in the 7,500 to 8K range that's maybe sub 10% or gives you an ownership break from Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, let's see.
So there we're
Mark
talking
Leishman,
about, like Leishman.
Yeah, Mark Leishman.
Like Lowry, yeah.
Leishman would give you a big ownership discount. I mean, Lowry and Fitzpatrick are, Lowry seems to have been picking up quite a bit of steam this week. So that 15% is for sure where he's going to end up, and maybe even north of that. So that would be fine. Abe Answer at 10% there would be completely fine as well. Russell Henley at 10%. Very good. I mean, Paul Casey killed me and killed Brian Worse last weekend. But like, again, super variant style of golf with like a extremely baked out, extremely fast course. Like Paul Casey is still one of the better players in the world. He's from England. He plays in wind and adverse weather conditions all the time, and he's very underpriced. The reason why he's only going to be 10 to 12% owned is because he shot 17 over the weekend last week, and he was super highly owned. But like, that's just 2 days in golf. It means it's literally meaningless. So, somebody like him gives you almost 6, 7, 8% ownership discount from Fitzpatrick, and he's probably every bit as good of a play.
Absolutely. And then just a few bucks below them is Corey Connors, who is 7,300 on DraftKings, 13% owned, one of the higher owned in that range. And generally, I would say chalkier golfers in that sub 7,500 range are ones you want to stay away from typically. But again, this is a major S week where it's pretty deep, and Connors is a great golfer, just a flat out great play this week. But if you were deciding to not play Connors, anybody else below him, I know we mentioned a few earlier, but let's say, 7K to 7,300 guys like Noren, Gooch, maybe in that range.
Well, first of all, Gary Woodland at 7,400 is a perfectly fine pivot from Connors at half the ownership. And, Woodland doesn't hit a bad bunker shot on 17 last week, and he wins. So he's been playing great. It would make a perfectly, fine, quick little pivot right there. Si Woo Kim at 9% is a play that I like for sure. Let's see, Russ Knox. I have some Brant Snedeker type feelings developing for Russ lately, so he's pretty good at 7,100 and 3%. Gooch obviously is someone that I like a fair amount as well, but he's 11%, so probably not too much of a discount from Connors. I mean, the Patrick Reed and the Matthew Wolff dynamic is still in effect. Like, I really don't understand what's going on with the two of them, but if you would put yourself in a time machine and say Reed would be 7,300 at the Players and he's going to be 1% owned or less by the field, like, I would lock him. I would have locked him in my lineup 8 months ago. So some of it benefits from having a long lens with this stuff and realizing that, like, okay, maybe he's not in great form, but maybe he finds his form from nowhere, and look out.
Yeah, and you get a golfer like that at 1%, which would be massive. A question here in the chat from Billy says, would it be better to focus on a core of higher price guys and rotate cheap guys, or the other way around? Nero, I would lean towards playing and maybe not even higher price guys, but my core would be mostly of that mid to high ownership tier, as opposed to going all in on some lower owned plays. But I'm curious to get your thoughts.
I've experimented with both styles. I know, Brian, you've also experimented with both styles. Like, it's definitely safer, and I would say also probably more plus EV, like consistently plus EV, to have a core that is decently owned and then sprinkle in the lesser owned plays. Because remember, if a play is Russell Knox, let's say, is 3%, 2% owned. Well, I only have to have 8% of Russell Knox, and I've got 4x the field that he does on him. So it's harder for me to get 4x the field on a 20% player, because then I got to own him in 80% of my lineups. It's obviously more variance, higher risk approach to lock in the lower ownership guys or go 30, 40% on those plays. You can do it. But if you don't play a lot of PGA and you're not familiar with the players, then I wouldn't do that. I would only do that type of strategy if you were deep down the golf rabbit hole and you were comfortable with the players and the variance associated with them.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. All right, we got 2 minutes left in the show. If you have any final questions that we didn't get to, make sure you can either comment on this video after it posts on YouTube, but the best way we'll be in here through most of the night is in Discord, occupyfantasy.com/Discord. Click join below the video. We'll be in there answering questions. We're still building lineups for all of our contests tomorrow. Happily, we'll answer those. And if you need a deeper answer, we'll probably be able to get to it quicker there. Nero, the final question, we see this on Twitter, and we get this question a decent amount, but we're going to name 4 guys. Who wins the tournament, your favorite overall play, someone you're fading, and then someone that's in your player pool that we should not own. So we'll bounce back and forth. You go first. Nero, who do you think wins the Players' Championship?
Oh, man, it's a cop-out, but John Rahm.
Oh, my God. Okay. We'll give him the easy answer. I'll say Hideki wins the Players' Championship. Favorite overall play?
It'd be between Lowry and Fitzpatrick for me. I'll probably go Lowry, but it's close. And again, that's all about the weather. Like, if the weather doesn't end up being as bad as it's forecasted to be, then I would have made different selections for my player pool. But that's what I'm going with.
Agree, and the weather's part of it. And I was gonna say Lowry is my favorite play as well, but I will pivot here a little bit, and I will say this is tough. I think at the ownership, it's kind of similar to the Patrick Reed thing. You tell me I get Dustin Johnson at 7%, sub 10K. I think he's probably 100%. My favorite play.
100%. By the way, the model has figured that out with the 90+ OF index for DJ.
Yeah, let's hope it's right this week. So, all right, someone that is decently owned that you're fading in all of your lineups, Nero.
Yeah, let's see. It's decently owned that I'm fading in all of my lineups. I don't know that I'm 100% fading, but I am way under the field. I'm just looking at the most owned players at the top. I'm way under the field on Scotty Scheffler. I also have a pretty strong tendency to not play much of the players who won the week before, and that can burn me, but that's just from my feeling of how much energy, both mental, physical, emotional, all of it, that they have to expend to win the tournament the previous week.
I think that's fair, and I'll give a little hint. I'm very underweight on everyone except Rahm in that top 5 or 6 of the salary range. So for those of you following along, that's a lot of the 10K golfers. So, and then this is always a fun one, Nero. Someone who's in your player pool that if you're giving advice to those listening that you absolutely they should not play, but you have them.
I would say either Lucas Herbert or Thomas Peters, but they both had some line moves, so maybe there's a little bit more support for that type of play than otherwise would normally be. So I think then that disqualifies both of them, and I'll have to say Russell Knox at 7,100 is
You really are
player that
developing
is
some
in my pool.
Snedeker feelings for Knox.
I know. Yeah, there's some Snedeker vibes going on with Knox. So yeah, he'd be my one that I have that you shouldn't have.
I think that's probably fair. I don't have too many golfers this week that are out there. Normally, I'll have some 6K guys that you probably shouldn't have any of, but I guess I have a decent amount of Brendan Steele, and he's like less than 1% owned. Would he qualify, I guess, Nero?
Yeah, I would say anybody that's 1% or less or 2% would qualify. You know, if you've been listening to the content or reading the content around Occupy with PGA, the like the NFL, like one of the most predictive variables of someone's fantasy performance is their projected ownership. And why is that? Because just like the NFL, the field has all week to figure out the best plays. So, you know, you have to be selective and a little bit careful when you have those 1%, sub 1% type plays that you're going to include in your player pool. And it's fine to have them. You just want to make sure that you have a reason that you want to fall back on for why you're playing them. Maybe a handicapper that you read likes them, or there was a line move or something similar.
Absolutely. And this will be the final question before we get out of here. Totally not the FBI. Always a great username. Asks, who is the best worst play and the worst best play? So basically, who's a good golfer that you think is the worst play this week, and who's the worst golfer that you think is the best play this week?
And who's a good golfer that is the worst play this week?
While you think about it, Nero, go ahead and take a couple seconds to think about it. I'm going to get some of the housekeeping out of the way. Again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Get notified whenever we go live, upload any new videos. Give us a thumbs up if you like the golf content and would like to see more. The Daily Plug, the Occupy model, the lineup builder is all up and running. Everything you need to crush this PGA slate at OccupyFantasy.com. Come join the community. Click the join button below this video. Get access to our Discord server, chat with me, Nero, other members, and other staff of OccupyFantasy.com. And make sure you read the lineup strategy section. It's very important in the plug. Honestly, a lot of the research that we've done goes into that, and it takes a lot of the thinking out of the equation if you follow those lineup strategies. And we have JC in the chat who says, I can't even recall the last time I missed in double ups because the low risk strategy in the plug is so good. So I appreciate that, JC. So Nero, I gave you a couple seconds here to think about it. Did you come up with any plays?
Yeah, I think for me, that would probably have to be I gave Scheffler as the one that I'm not fading, so that's the easy answer, right? Like he would be the best golfer that I think is not a great play. The next one for me would be Sam Burns at 7,900. He's a very good golfer and had an amazing fall stretch. Won multiple tournaments last year, but I just don't think is a great fit for this course and has not been playing that well lately. Now let's see, the best worst play,
the fun one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that again, that I'd have to go to Thomas Peters at 6,300. Just you have to assume he's a bad play because he's 6,300. But he plays primarily on the European Tour. He just won on the European Tour 2-3 months ago, something like that. He played college golf at Illinois, so he's very familiar with American courses and PGA Tour style of play, and he's just got a great game for sawgrass and for the weather. And he's certainly a higher upside player than the 6,300. The reason why he's 6,300 and the reason why his ownership is so low is because he's very inconsistent.
Believe me, we'll take inconsistency as long as we get those spike weeks every now and then. So, all right, so that'll do it for the show. As always, make sure everyone give a thanks to Nero, who's a very busy man and has to remain anonymous at all times, and taking the time out of his day to join us for the show and drop some knowledge. If you like what he heard, if you like what you heard from Nero, make sure you check out the Daily Plug. He writes it every week at OccupyFantasy.com with his player pools, transparency, talking about how his plays in the past have done. Hint, they've done very well. Updates on Wednesday with how the betting market is reacting, plus specific lineup strategies for how to build PGA lineups the correct way. So for Nero, I'm Brian. We appreciate y'all listening, and good luck in the Players' Championship.